Yeah, boy.
Here we are once again trying to figure out which 5 weapons are the best. Today we'll be checking out the one-handed maces, and boy are these special. There are some pretty unique maces in Outward, ranging from a decay scepter to a multi-winged weapon of power. This weapon type is special because it's the slowest one-handed weapon that has the most damage. Swords are very fast and great with a rapid attack playstyle. Axes are a bit slower than swords, but use their combo attacks and they really stand out. Then you have the mace, which hits with very high impact and larger damage. Its main special attack's pretty terrible, as it's extremely slow, but use it within regular attacks and it becomes fast and hard-hitting. Maces are the weapon of a true cleric or holy warrior, and if you're going to be a holy paladin-like being, you need the best of the best. Here are the top 5 maces in Outward Definitive Edition. For number 5, we have the Tsar Mace. If I'm correct, this has the highest physical damage of any one-handed weapon in the game, hitting with 70 physical and 57 impact. It puts things on the ground and pairs very well with high-powered attack skills. In fact, this may well be one of the best weapons to make a physical damage build with if you enchant a lexicon to have a damage bonus. It's gorgeous, can't forget about that, and gives you a truly massive weapon to wield in just one hand. I personally don't use this thing much because I don't value physical damage over everything else, but it is an excellent option. You have a higher stamina cost in each swing compared to other maces, but man does it hit hard. In fact, I really like the look of this with the Tsar armor. Just seems to go with the set. You need to beat the Jade Lich to craft the Tsar Mace, and I would say it's well worth trying out. For number 4, we have the Mace of Seasons. This is a very interesting boss weapon that can be crafted from Gep's Generosity, Pearlbird's Courage, Elat's Relic, and Leyline Figment. One of the most unique looking maces for sure, as it spreads out much more than the others to give you a flower opening with color? Kinda hard to describe, but it's neat to look at. It has nice physical damage and pretty decent impact, making it a good mace overall. What gives it the spot on this list is that it inflicts elemental vulnerability. Yep, this mace makes enemies weaker to elemental damage by 25%. I typically include a weapon on my top 5 videos that do this because it's that strong. Use a lightning varnish against, say, a scourge enemy. Does nice damage since they're weak to it, but first inflict elemental vulnerability and then do the same thing. You deal much more damage, sometimes cutting the fight time in half. This effect is absurdly strong and Outward, and having an easy way to inflict it is quite beneficial. Now, the Mace of Seasons isn't my favorite because of one thing: very medium attack speed. It's not bad, it's at a 1, but because maces are already slower than other one-handed weapons, it feels worse than it is. I much prefer a faster weapon, especially for one-handed options, as timing is key to avoiding damage. But this one downside is pretty easy to overlook most of the time. As long as you don't get greedy and pay attention to enemy attack patterns, you can get in and get out with high damage swings that devastate your opponent's stability. The Mace of Seasons is kind of underwhelming for a boss item, but still very powerful if we consider all the maces. For number 3, we have my personal favorite mace, the Marble Morning Star. All marble weapons are very good. They don't all excel like this one, but it's a weapon group that deals good physical damage and nice impact. The combination you really want. These weapons can also be enchanted to swing much faster and way less. The faster attack speed immediately makes them twice as powerful, as it's easier to get into a scrap and get out without taking damage. This mace is the best of those marble weapons because it inflicts confusion. This takes around 3 or 4 hits and will make the enemy 25% weaker to being knocked back. I consider it one of the best things to have in Outward, as Stagger is so strong and keeps more powerful enemies from doing their high damage attacks. With the fast attack speed on top of confusion and a really strong hitting mace, this thing puts enemies down fast. I also really like that it's called a Morning Star instead of a plain old mace. adds a bit of reverence to its name and fits considering it looks very spiky. The Marble Morningstar is my go-to mace because it packs a whole lot into one weapon, and you can still add varnishes on top of it all. It's an option that will never let you down. Hits almost as hard as the Tsar, considering how easily it inflicts confusion. If you haven't tried it, then this is the mace you should go for. There are 2 others ahead of it on this list, just because of pure damage, but it's a truly special item in Outward. For number 2, we have Sceptor of the Cruel Priest. This is the pinnacle of all decay weapons, outputting some of the highest damage you can get from any one weapon and looking like a corruption-filled mass while doing it. It hits with 55 decay damage, but also provides a 13% buff to that decay damage. So it buffs itself, which is pretty rare in Outward, and has no physical damage whatsoever. This already makes this more unique and allows it to be used a bit better by mages if you want a strong backup for when magic is failing you. The attack speed and impact are not great, I have to admit. It deals under half the impact of the best mace on this list and really doesn't stagger as much as, say, the Marble Morningstar we just talked about. And 0.9 attack speed means it's very slow. Not quite as slow as Tsar, but still noticeable. These 2 negatives balance out the high decay damage though, so I think up to this point it's still pretty OP and puts out an absurd amount of damage that can easily be buffed to be in the hundreds. This makes it a great contender for best mace. However, it also has some pretty serious problems. We already talked about its impact being low and the attack speed being okay at best, but it is also one of the latest game weapons in Outward. You can't even try to get it until you've beaten your faction quest and started the new Sirocco questline. I have a guide which I'll link down below on the actual process of getting it, but you have to wait a very long time. Then there's the debuff problem. This mace is a Caldera weapon, and those all have very powerful stats, with one negative. This one's negative is that it weakens you to lightning by negative 30%. In other words, you get one-shotted by lightning, which really isn't that big of a deal until you go up against the Spire of Light, because you could avoid fighting things with lightning damage for most of the game, except for there. And if you try to buff it more with the corruption on your side, it's guaranteed to one-shot you no matter what. Essentially, it's a glass cannon type of weapon, instantly kill loads of enemies, but get deleted yourself against lightning opponents. All that being said, this mace is extremely strong and almost deserved the top spot of number 1. If it didn't have as many negatives, it would be, purely from a damage standpoint. But we still have one last weapon to look at. For mace number 1, we have Sky Crown Mace. This is the single best mace in Outward as it offers a lot to the user and throws you up against the coolest enemy in the game to get it. The Sky Crown Mace is an elegant weapon, once again likely made by the Giants. If you're following my other top 5s, you might notice a pattern here. These porcelain items are the OP Monster Slayers. This is one of the best frost weapons in the game as it deals a good amount of physical and ice damage. It also has a lower stamina cost to swing and is really fast with a 1.1 attack speed. Then there's the icing on top of the cake. 50 impact with every single swing. This is a one-handed whacking machine. It's super easy to stagger enemies with this, and with the speed it offers, you'll be in the fight brutally defeating your enemies before they can stop you. It also has ice particles lightly cascading off the side of it, giving you a powerful item that looks fantastic. Then you have its origin. It can be looted from the first cannibal. Probably the coolest, no pun intended, cave in the game. Starting with fire and burning men everywhere, leading into a frozen and desolate maze filled with dead Cryptea warriors. In the middle of all this destruction stands the very first Wendigo, a man turned cannibal who has become something terrifying. My absolute favorite enemy in Outward, filled with sad lore that tugs at your heartstrings. But you kill him and take this amazing mace, making us very happy once again. It's just an incredible experience getting this guy for the first time, and I still think it's the best mace in the game. Loads of power, and most things are not resistant to that cold damage, helping you quite a bit in tougher regions. The Sky Crown Mace is amazing, and it will never let you down. There you have the top 5 maces in Outward Definitive Edition. This was a super easy video to make, as I love every single one of these 5, and they offer the tools you need to master the game. I especially think the top 3 are ridiculously strong and kind of allow you to bully enemies. Try them out if you're looking for a really good one-handed option, and I don't think you'll be disappointed. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you next time.